All right, so up next on page 45, we have Scarf Dance. So let's take a little look at this. First things first, at the top, they're saying find the keys. Okay, it's kind of looking like a C position, like normal. But if we look, our left hand 5 is actually on middle C. So it's all the way up here. So what's going on? Notice the left hand plays in the treble clef. What? Okay, so we got a couple things to talk about here. And they even got this little arrow pointing at the treble clef to remind you that's what's going on. So the reason we do this is sometimes we want our left hand to play up higher on the keyboard, but if we write those notes in the bass clef, they're like way up above the staff and they can be kind of hard to read. So instead of writing them in bass clef, we'll just go ahead and write them in treble clef, but we'll put them in that left hand line so we know our left hand is still going to play those notes. They could be a little confusing, but in reality what's going on here is we have our old school C position and we're just moving it up an octave and we're there, right? So if we know that, set up your old school position, then to scoot it up, you're in good shape. So a little trickier to read because we're messing with some higher up notes too, but that's indeed what's going on here. Otherwise, it's still a C position though. It's just like a higher position. What else? We're in 3/4, so make sure you're keeping track of that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That whole feeling there. Looking like we got some repeats in here too. So at the end of measure 8 here, the second line, we get this repeat sign. So that if we don't have like a place where they tell us to go back to, we should just assume we're going back to the beginning. So that's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna run those first 2 lines all over again. And then looking here, we got this sign at measure 9, then at the very end. So when we get to the end of the piece, we're gonna go back to that sign at measure 9 and run the second 2 lines all over again. So basically we're running the first 2 lines twice in a row, then we're running the last 2 lines twice in a row. And we can see here it says F-P on repeat. What they're getting at there is our first pass through the first 2 lines, we want to be forte or loud. And then our second pass, the repeat, we want to be quiet or piano, right? So we want some contrast there, and that seems to be true for measure 9 to the end as well. Play it once loud, play it once quiet. So overall structure, run the first 2 lines loud, run them again quiet, then run the last 2 lines loud, then run those again quiet, and you're done. So it's just a way of, so we don't have 2 pages of music, you know, and we get a little more mileage out of this. So I think I've said pretty much everything I need to before we dive into this. It says rather fast, we're gonna go slow, just to make sure we got all the notes where we need to, then we can always kick up the speed. And we do have these big, long tied notes in the left hand. So even though it's in a weird spot, we don't really have to do much once we set it there, so that's good. We still gotta be a little careful with some of these notes though. So I think that's it, let's just go for it. So here's my old school C position. Whoop. I'm gonna move up to this one. Don't forget we got an E flat in the right hand coming up. And here we go, forte first time. All right, here's a repeat, back to the top, nice and quiet. All right, on to measure 9, forte. Keep forte going. Okay, back to measure 9, quiet. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're done. Okay, so even then I played that maybe a little quick to keep up with, but we can really get some speed on this one once we get our hands on top of this. So you check the performance video for that. I'll run into that little quicker clip there. I think that's pretty much it for this one. Let's see what's next.